Hi, I'm Bil Cornelius, pastor at Bay Area Fellowship in Corpus Christi, Texas, and the author of a book called Go Big that was written for pastors. And if I had 9 minutes to share one thing with leaders across America, I had to really think about this. I thought about prayer, I thought about church disciplines, personal disciplines, I thought about church life, how things go with the church. And I really, when it came down to it and I cut through all that, I thought really I would talk about the power of mentoring. So I just want to take a few minutes and talk to you about utilizing great mentors and how that can make a massive impact in your life personally as well as your church. If you have your Bibles, you can look at Exodus chapter 33. It says, "It was Moses' practice to take the tent of meeting and set it up a distance from the camp. Everyone who wanted to make a request of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent of meeting, all the people would get up and stand in the entrance of their own tents. They would all watch Moses until he disappeared inside." So, in other words, this is where he met with God. It says in verse 9, "As he went into the tent, a pillar of cloud would come down and hover at its entrance while the Lord spoke with Moses. When the people saw the cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, they would stand and bow down in front of their own tents. Inside the tent of meeting, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Afterward, Moses would return to the camp, but the young man who assisted him, Joshua, son of Nun, would remain behind in the tent of meeting." So here's this guy Joshua that is literally inside the tent with Moses. I mean, I don't know about you, that's a pretty amazing mentorship right there. To be to see Moses talking with God as if talking to a friend, and to be in the background, whether he was holding his coffee, taking notes, running errands for him. We don't know all that he did for him, but we know that he was there, and clearly he was being mentored by Moses. That can't hurt you if you're going to go into the promised land, to have been mentored by Moses, the guy who was responsible for leading the people out of Egypt, for the parting of the Red Sea. I mean, just amazing stuff happened through Moses' hands. Clearly God was in charge, but Moses was a conduit of God's blessing to his people. And so here we see scripture that clearly shows us Joshua understood the value that Moses would be in his life. And so I just want to say a couple quick things about how to gain the right mentors, how to keep those mentorships going, and then how to utilize what you learn the best. And then, of course, last of all, hopefully you will become a mentor to other leaders as well. A couple things real quick. First thing I want to tell you, number one, is to read books from people who have done what you want to do. If you can't meet with a mentor you want, read their book. Most of them have conferences, they have books, they have seminars. Read their material, go to their websites, really study up on who they are, what they do, and what they've done. And I want to warn you, be real careful to read the books from practitioners, people who've actually done it, not just people who talk about doing it or have an opinion on doing it. Now, there are consultants who have been in the game of what you want to do that then consult later, and again, they've already done it. But make sure you talk to someone who's already getting the results that you want to get. This is not to say there's not value in researchers and things like that, because I learned from them as well. But you always want to make sure that the information you get is coming from a stream of experience. It's not coming from a stream of opinion. That's critical that we make sure that we read from the right people and get the right information. Second thing I'll tell you, number two, is to go to the right conferences. This is a real simple thing, but most of us end up going to the popular conferences. But the popular conferences aren't always the right conferences. Sometimes the right conference is the one no one really knows about, but you know about it. You've done your research. You found out who's doing what you want, and you go to that conference. And so I just encourage you that when it comes to conferences, there's some great ones out there, but make sure it's someone that you really need to hear from. One of the things that I've done in my life is, because I value the most in my life, other than my walk with God and my wife and my kids, I value pastoring. I love leading the local church. So I make sure that the bulk of my resources for conferences goes towards hearing pastors who lead, not politicians who lead, not business leaders who lead, pastors who are in the local church, because that's what I do. Listen, if I wanted to be a CEO of a company, then I go listen to CEOs, but I really listen to pastors because they're doing exactly what I want to do, and they're doing it better than I'm doing it, and that's why I go hear them. So I encourage you to go to the right conferences, and I encourage you, once you go to those conferences, keep going. Go back again and again and again. Make a name for yourself at the conference by attending it regularly, and eventually you'll begin to really get to know those in charge of that conference and become someone they can count on as well. Because I don't know if you know this, being a pastor who's actually done a couple conferences, we sweat doing a conference. I mean, we're all nervous, like, is someone going to show up? So we value someone who comes down to be at our conference. And so we think, man, I want to pour my life more into this person because they took the time, the energy, and the money to come be a part of it. And so when you're regularly going to the things that they're offering, you don't realize this, you're setting yourself up to be mentored directly by them. So I encourage you to do that. Whatever they offer, take it. Another thing that's becoming real popular now is a lot of great pastors and leaders around the country are now offering coaching. I highly recommend it. I know it's a higher price point, but it is well worth it because you get one-on-one time with them. They get to know your context, the situation you're in, and it's critical that you know about that, that they know about that so that they can say, oh, well, in your situation, I would do this. And so make sure that you do your best to get direct personal coaching. A friend of mine out in California, his name's Sergio De La Mora, a great pastor of a church out there called Cornerstone Church. He invited me to come in and speak, and I came in and I talked, and it was great. But my mentor, one of my mentors, Ed Young, told me about Sergio. And so he said, man, you really got to go down there. And Sergio invited me to come speak. So I went down there, and Sergio told me something that really impacted me. He said, Bill, he said, I'm so glad you're here to speak to my people. I'm glad you're here to talk to our church. He said, but I really value just one-on-one time with you, just asking questions. And he just grilled me for a whole day, and I loved every second of it. And Sergio has the faith to go for the big mentors. I heard just the other day, I was invited out. He had T.D. Jakes come to his church. I thought, you got to be kidding me. So he has faith not only to grow his ministry, he has faith to go for the big mentor. He has faith to get the right person in front of him that he knows can challenge him at a level that no one else can. So have faith to step out and really go for calling that person that you think, I could never get with him. Call him. Do what you can. And if they turn you down, they probably will at first say, listen, I understand they're busy, no problem. Since I can't get lunch with them, do they have anything I can go to? And they'll probably tell you about a conference or a retreat or some kind of coaching network or something. Find out about it and get involved in that and begin to build that relationship with them. Another thing I would do is line up meetings with the leaders that are right in front of you. You know what? Maybe you can't get with Bill Hybels right now, but I bet you can get with someone that's running twice what you're running in your church. Maybe your church is running 200-300, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there. And maybe that's where you're at right now, or maybe you say, my church is barely out off the ground. And you say, my church is 2 years old, I'm a church planter. Then find someone whose church is 4 years old, that's where you want to be at year 4, and call them. You may not be able to get with Bill Hybels running 20,000, but you can get with someone running 800 people and say, what do I need to learn to be able to do that? And so get with the people right in front of you, and if you keep getting with them and applying what you learn from them, eventually you'll be standing in front of Bill Hybels, okay? And eventually you'll be asking questions to the Ed Youngs and Rick Warrens of the world. And so, but always allow yourself to get mentored by the people right in front of you. You may not have access to the one you want down the line, but don't worry about that now. You have access to someone right in front of you who's already done what you're doing, what you want to do, and they're at 3 steps in front of you. Ask them questions, drill them. Man, what are you doing? How'd you do this? When you were where we're at, how'd you plan? How'd you handle your staff? How'd you handle your time? What books are you reading? All those kinds of questions, ask away. The other thing I encourage you to do, number 4, is to take leaders to lunch and go where they are. Don't be afraid to put something in your budget to be able to fly to the church that you want to meet with and take them to lunch. Another thing too, I'll just tell you real quick, I'm running out of time. Do what they tell you to do before you meet with them again. Because listen, a mentor is someone who values their time so much that if they pour into you and then you come back and say, oh, I didn't do all those things you said, but I want to talk to you again. They don't have time for that. They want to make sure you're actually utilizing what you are, that what you give them, you're doing something with as soon as you get it from them. And the last thing I would tell you is to pray for your mentors and look for ways to bless them. One of my favorite things to do is to text several mentors I have and say, just praying for you today. And to really genuinely pray for them and to say, how can I meet a need that they have? And I can tell you a need that every mentor has. Every mentor has a need to be needed with the knowledge they have. Every mentor has a need to know they're leaving a legacy in someone after them. And so you actually are ministering to them when you allow them to pour into your life and bring change in your ministry. Hi, I'm Bil Cornelius.